Welcome in to Loon Talk. Jonathan Harrison here alongside Dan Terhaar for this week's Loon Talk. Dan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I was just telling you, I got the lawn mowed. I cooked myself a steak and one for Teresa, too. I didn't just cook one for me.
Well, that's good. That's nice of you.
So I'm still finishing off my glass of Cabernet, so that's what I got going on.
Oh, you're going the adult style with the Cabernet. I've got
well, with steak, you get yeah.
Okay, it works well then. See, yeah. I'm sticking to the kid style and going chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk. You probably had chicken nuggets for supper, so it probably fits just right.
That was yesterday. Chicken nuggets was yesterday for dinner.
No, the pairing, your beverage pairing with your meal is very important. And I think we're both right on. I had a steak with some red wine, and Hugh had hot dogs and chocolate milk. So, yeah. I think we're both very, very astute.
It fits the age personality here, I guess. All right. So once again, you are listening to Loon Talk. You can find us anywhere you find your podcast. Please do give us a rating, a review, and a subscription. It really does help us get found and helps the word get out about us. We are Score North's Minnesota United /MLS podcast. We'll cover all things Loons and MLS, and we'll delve into the US men's national team. Later on in the show, we'll also talk maybe a little bit about the Euros final, the Copa America final. Then we'll get to Write That Down, which... oh boy, Dan, write that down this week is interesting. Mm-hmm. Big changes in Write That Down this week.
We needed changes. It was getting
There's
stale.
A lot of things coming off the board. It was not a good week for anybody.
Wait, San Jose didn't get back in first place, did they?
I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to becoming or going to first place.
We shouldn't have lost to them.
At this point, that's looking more like a bunt than anything.
That was a safe bunt, yes. That was a sacrifice fly is what that was.
If you don't know, Dan and myself, we are the radio broadcast team for all Minnesota United games. You can hear us on Score North on AM 1500, the Score North mobile app, and live.scorenorth.com. We like to consider ourselves the best kept secret in MLS because we are also... Yep. This is also the most unofficially official Minnesota United podcast since we are technically employed by the team on game days, and non-game days we are not employed by the team. So we can say whatever we want here, and that might be needed today, Dan.
Which might happen if we're going to talk about the San Jose match.
The Colorado match? Yeah, let's jump right into it.
Colorado, yeah. San Jose was bad enough. Colorado was worse. So
yeah, it was two not good games following up each other. And Colorado Rapids 2, Minnesota United 0. And that 0's a big one because Minnesota left Colorado not with a lot of anything because they didn't show up at all, it seemed like, to put it mildly, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, it was a bad outing. And when you came off the draw with San Jose, you kind of went, okay, but they kept the unbeaten streak going.
Yeah.
Yay. I went, hey. You know what I mean? But it was kind of
one more game.
Yeah, it was kind of a half-hearted yay. Yeah. And now we know why. It's because they were lucky to get a tie against, San Jose. And you go into Colorado, and I know it's tough to win on the road in the MLS. We've heard it. But you know what? Right. It shouldn't be if you're a top team and a contender and a team that was in the Western Conference Finals a year ago, it shouldn't be tough to win in Colorado.
Right.
And the excitement was around the front four. You had, this shiny, it was like taking your shiny new car out for a ride and then, it breaks down the road.
Yeah.
That's what happened. It was
the right front tire kind of sputtered out on them.
They were awful. Right front, left front, all of them, all four of them went. It was one of the, and you mentioned this at the end of the broadcast, it was one of the worst 90 minutes collectively that we've seen in a long time from this team. And that's disappointing because, I know the back four were all screwed up and it was a mess. But you know what? Let's just take that as it is. And you gave up 2 goals. You can't score 3 against Colorado. Give me a break.
Right.
With this lineup, 2 or 3 goals should not have been asking too much. And it was a major disappointment. Yeah.
You mentioned there, I said it on the broadcast. I personally feel that was the worst performance we've seen since the TCF Bank Stadium days. It was a really bad performance from the word go. You mentioned the makeshift back line. You had Yuka Raitala lining up alongside Brent Coleman, and then DJ Taylor starting out at right back. Chase Gasper is the only one who stayed from basically the remaining 4. Tyler Miller and net once again. We got to see. I don't really think the back line like they didn't have a horrible performance because it was all dependent on the rest of the field essentially just not showing up that night. I don't think Jukka Raitala is a 90-minute starter for this team going forward. I don't think you want to put him on the field 90 minutes in a row or 90 minutes several games in a row. I think he's pretty much your depth piece, but if, as we mentioned last week, they really need more center back depth, and that showed last week starting your third and fourth string center backs, and it didn't really work out for them.
But you shouldn't need that. I mean, in this league, it's so frustrating because you really feel like you shouldn't need that kind of depth at center back because it's a position where, let's face it, they don't get hurt as often. They can go 90 minutes. I mean, it's a position that, as a rule, you don't need as much depth. But all of a sudden, Michael Boxall gets injured, called away to the Olympics. And, I guess what it comes down to is we really had no depth there. And we didn't really realize it. I think we thought Jukka was going to be a stronger piece. I think Brent Coleman's serviceable. I like Brent, but I don't think he can be the feature attraction back there. I think you need to have someone else with him, like Michael Boxall.
Brent's there if one of your top two go out. He shouldn't be part of a completely new second or two-man back line. He's a two-man center back pairing.
Yeah, he's an outstanding number 3 center back.
Yeah.
And I think he's actually a pretty good number 2 center back. If your number 1 is a Michael Boxall or an Iko Para, when he played. And so all of a sudden your guy that's your 2 or 3, in this case our number 3 is the number 1, and a guy that's going to be the number 2 is how do you describe it? He's not playing up to his abilities is all I can think of with Jukka Raitala. Is just he's not playing up to what he's capable of because he's obviously a good defender, on the international level. So it's a little frustrating, but yeah, I guess you do need another center back from somewhere.
Right. Moving further up the field, we saw in a much changed lineup last Wednesday, last year's midfield pairing essentially, because this year that midfield pairing has been essentially Hassani Dotson and Will Trapp. On Wednesday, we saw Ozzy Alonso start alongside Jan Gregos. Ozzy's pretty much at the age where you're not going to want him to go 90 minutes. We saw that Wednesday night. And then Jan Gregos just having another kind of to down game. And it's starting to lead me to the question of what's up with Jan this year. He hasn't really shown up well this year.
If you compare him to someone like Robin Lod, who started slow and continually got better, Jan is kind of the opposite of that. Jan came in and you thought, this guy's pretty good. This guy's, remember he scored a couple of goals from outside the 18, and we thought, wow, this guy's, and he's, since that point, he's kind of slowly tapered off to the point now where you're just happy if he gets a ball on goal. I mean, that's like, that's like, woo, So I don't know what's going on with him. And Ozzy is Ozzy. He's one of my favorite players of all time. Yeah. I love his fire. I love his energy. But he's done being a starter. I think this is the guy that's probably super valuable in the clubhouse, at practice, on the bench. And if we can get him in 15, 20 minutes here and there where we need him and he can bring that passion and that energy, he's going to be a great part of this team for the rest of the year, and they need him. But I don't know that he needs to start anymore.
No, I don't think you want him as one of your big starters going forward for the rest of the season.
Spot starts here and there, midweek games where you need to give someone a break, but I'd like to see him probably come off at halftime if he does start.
Absolutely. And we've seen that Hassani Dotson and Will Trapp are a solid enough midfield that they can that this team can rely on them. Jan Gregos, as you mentioned, he came in and he was one of the best midfielders in the league. He just controlled the midfield alongside Ozzy Alonso, and just this season, anytime he's been put in, it just seems like he's lost that ability to control it like he has in years past. I don't know what's going on with him. I hope he can regain his form, because if he does, he's a real asset to this team. Then you mentioned it. You already mentioned it. We finally got to see that dream starting attack we've all been looking for, and it just sputtered out. There was nothing from him.
Turned out to be a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. Robin Lod came back.
It's a bad dream.
Yeah, Robin Lod came back. The attack wasn't his. The lack of attack wasn't his fault, but he was pretty silent. He was pretty kept quiet on Wednesday night. You didn't get much from Adrian Anu. Franco Fragapane found his way around the field. Emmanuel Reynoso found his way around the field, but you just didn't get a whole lot from anybody.
No, and what the expectation was that with all four of those pieces in place, they're going to have to choose who they're going to focus on.
Yeah.
And we kind of assume that they're going to look to the middle and worry about Reynoso because he's had a history in his short time in the league of being a playmaker, making things happen. We want to run the offense up the middle through him if we can, especially with Métanire out, taking away part of our outside game, a big part of all of our outside game. And so you would expect that was going to open up space for guys like Anu, guys like Robin Lod. And the only one that I really thought benefited was Fragapane. It seemed like he had some space. He had some time on the ball more than the other two. So that's why it was disappointing, is that it didn't look any different than it does with, somebody else in that spot. Right. And it shouldn't have. But now in defense of Robin Lod, he's coming off of, international play. It's a lot of travel, blah, blah, blah. We all hear it. But there is something to it. No, I mean, there is something to it. It's not easy to do that much traveling. So, we'll see. If that's the case, then we should see much more out of Robin in the coming matches.
Yeah. And they'll definitely need him coming up on Sunday. We'll get to that match on Sunday in a little bit. Not a whole lot of talking points out of this one, other than the big one that got a Minnesota United player sent off. Ramon Abila late in the match gets a red card. At the time when it originally happened, we both looked at each other. We were wondering what the heck happened. And then you see the close-up footage, the zoomed-in footage, and you can see him obviously take a punch at, I believe, Diego Rubio. Absolutely no place for that in the game. It was a deserved red card. What should the Loons do with Ramon Abila? Because I haven't seen enough on the field to warrant him playing much more. And if his role is gonna be the guy who comes on late in matches when you're already up and basically hold on to a lead and just basically be a target man up there to bring down the ball and hold up the defense, that's great. But you need to have leads, and this team isn't playing with a whole lot of leads this season. No. And if they're gonna have to fight every single minute of every game, there's not gonna be much of a role for him. And with the cap space league, you're going to need that cap space that he's taking up. I don't know what the Loons do with a guy like Ramon Abila.
Yeah, before the incident, we talked about how, he looks like he's out of shape, and if he can come on late in the match and have some skill up front, play hold up soccer, which is going to be a change up from what Adrian does, that might be okay, and you're going, okay. But then we also talked about, I think last week on this podcast, that's a lot of money for a guy that's a big commitment for a guy that's just going to play 15 minutes a night.
Right.
So now you got a guy that throws a punch for no reason.
Absolutely. You're already down 2-0 and you need goals, right, and he just does that and makes it all the worse.
I understand he was frustrated. I understand all that, but here's the deal. You can be frustrated, you can be mad, you can be angry. First of all, you just came off the bench. So you're not invested into this match like some of the other guys were. And so you should be able to come in with a little more patience and be a little more calm than the guys that have been invested in it. To throw a punch, other than hockey, where you'll get 5 minutes for fighting, it's unacceptable in sports. Well, there's, boxing, but, that's obvious. So for him to throw a punch, to me, you know what that felt like? That felt like a punch right to Adrian Heath and his staff.
Yeah.
To me, what he did was disrespectful to his teammates and to the coaching staff, because unless someone purposely, stomped on his foot or did something, but we didn't see anything that deserved being punched. So I think it probably reflects a lot of frustration on the part of Ramon.
Yeah.
Don't you think, Jonathan, he thought he was going to come in here. He was going to be a star. I don't know how, when physically he looks out of shape, But don't you think he thought he was going to come in here? He was going to start. He was going to play 60, 65 minutes every night.
Well, yeah, because he came from Boca Juniors, came from scoring a ton of goals for the best team in Argentina, one of the best teams, if not the best team in South America. He figures, I'm going to go up to America, I'm going to bag a bunch of goals, and it's going to be easy for me. It's really not. And that perception that MLS is an easy league, I don't know why it's still out there. You saw it a couple weeks ago with the comments from Gonzalo Higuain, who basically said, I'm just going to go smoke a cigarette on the field and have some fun. Like, it's a tougher league than people think, and I don't think he knew that this league was going to be a tough league, despite having one of his former teammates on the club already, knowing that this league is a tough league.
Yeah. I think that there was a time when, he was right, players came over here when they were 40 something and they scored goals, that was a long time ago. So this might, I got to agree with you. I think he thought this was going to be easy. I think if he knew what he was in for, he might have slimmed down a little bit. I don't know, but I mean, I would if someone told me, "Hey, Terhaar, you got 2 weeks before you got to go out and play soccer." I think I'd probably try and do what I could
a little bit
in
of
2
shape.
weeks. So the original question was, what do you do with him? I don't know what you do with him because it's not like he's a wanted commodity right now.
Right.
And now after he punched somebody and got a red card, anybody that might have thought, hey, we could use a guy like that is going, nah,
never mind.
Not so interested. So I don't know that there's anything but let the season ride out and then he's gone. So
and then
have we seen that a time or two? A striker come in, ride out the season, and he's gone.
And then you check out his Instagram account, and he's just traveling the U.S. like it's party season. Like, come on,
dude. Still is?
Yeah, he took a picture down in Miami this weekend with Carlos Tevez, one of his former teammates from Boca Juniors. It's like, okay, you were in Miami this weekend. You were in New York a couple weekends ago. Like, okay.
So he's not fully invested. He just wanted to come to America and experience America. Yeah. And so you know what? He should go do that. That's what it seems like. Then he should go do that on the bench for Miami or Orlando or somebody. Yeah.
Well, Inter Miami would take him because they take everybody and don't care about the salary cap consequences.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything you can do with him. I'm guessing that he'll ride out the season and then be gone. But, I guess if someone would make any kind of an offer or I guess he's on loan, right? So you could just
send him back if you want to.
Yeah, you could just send him back and be done. So I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. So.
So overall, not a good night for Minnesota United.
It was a horrible night.
Yeah, horrible night.
They sucked.
Loons fall for Dan said it. Loons fall further behind Colorado in the standings. Yeah. They were down 2 points going into the night. Yeah. Now they're down 5 points in the standings to Colorado because of wins by LAFC and RSL. On Wednesday night, Minnesota United dropped down to 7th place in the Western Conference. Not a good night for Minnesota. And that leads me to my big question, Dan. Our big question of the episode.
Big question.
There you go. There's our big voice guy. What is the ceiling for Minnesota United in 2021? We came into the season thinking that with all the additions that they were going to have to this roster, everything that we knew was going to come in, we thought that this is definitely going to be a title contender. This team, because they were 18 minutes away from getting to the MLS Cup final last year, that they'd come in and just continue that form and look as good as they did at the end of last season and just ride that throughout this entire season and be a title contender. Well, it's not gone that way at all this season. They had the rough start. They bounced back pretty magnificently, but then you've had these past 2 games that haven't looked good at all. What is the ceiling for this club?
The last couple of matches concern me more than the 0-4 start.
Yeah.
When they started 0-4, you just said, okay, there's just something's not clicking. They're going to get it together, and they did, and they went 7 without a loss. So those first 4 really were not a problem, other than the fact there was about 9, 10, 11 points there that they could really have used right now.
Right.
So the last 2 has been much more concerning. Coming off a year where they went to the Western Conference Final. What's their ceiling? If the offensive pieces ever start clicking, their ceiling is still where it was to start the year. It's that they could go deep into the playoffs and make a run back to the Western Conference Final. But right now you have to look at it and say, but the way things have gone so far, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Now,
Yeah.
that can change, and I feel like this is a squad where if they go out and maybe it's against Seattle, maybe it's not, and they're going to score 3, 4, 5 goals, and everybody's going to feel good, and all of a sudden, you know how it is. They get their confidence up, and all of a sudden, nobody can touch them because the talent is there on paper.
Absolutely.
This is still a team that's good enough to challenge for the MLS Cup and to get back to the Western Conference Final. This team is better than the team that did it last year. So the ceiling is limitless if they figure things out soon. I think this is still a playoff team. I hope that they don't have to battle and scrap and get help to find their way into the playoffs. That would be very disappointing. I would hope that this is a team that can still figure it out. But right now, I'm like everybody else. I'm scratching my head. Is this a team that's going to not qualify for the playoffs? Or is this a team that's going to figure it out and have a strong finish and maybe even still battle for a home field playoff game? To me, it's a mystery. I don't know which way this team is going because on paper, Jonathan, this is still a really good squad.
Yeah, I'm with you there. On paper, if you're just playing the paper game, this team is one of the best teams in the league, and it should be up there.
Yep.
It should be up there to challenge for the title. But with how things have played out this season, as you mentioned, these last 2 games are far more concerning to me than those first 4 games. If these last 2 games continue to play out, and this Sunday is a really big test, not only because it's the best team in the league coming in, but you can't follow up those last 2 games with another stinker. You just can't. And I know coming in against Seattle is going to be a really tough one to try and turn this around, but you have to find a way to do that. If these last 2 games, the form that they had in these last two games continues any longer, I think you have to start worrying how far can they actually go. And I don't want to say that because I like this team. I want this team to succeed because it's fun to see them get to places where they were last year. It's great to see them continue to build on the success they've had over the last 3 seasons. And it's a real mystery to me as to where this team can go. If they can get it turned around, like you said, real quick here, then yeah, they can get back to those preseason expectations. But if it continues much longer, if what we've seen over the last 2 games continues much longer, there's a real worry, I think, about going very far in the playoffs. I still think this team's going to make the playoffs. The rest of the Western Conference is a little hit or miss. I don't think LA Galaxy are as good as I like to believe they are sometimes, and many people like to believe they are. Their schedule and how they play against actually good teams is really concerning, so that'll continue to shake out throughout the rest of the season. And then you look at the rest of the Western Conference, there's not a whole lot to shake at, but Minnesota's struggling against the Western Conference, so it's really hard to tell where they can go. Yeah. So on paper, it's an MLS title team. Right now, on form, they're not.
Yeah, it's a head scratcher. And you know what? We're going to find out, probably yet this month whether or not this team can shake it up. There's no reason for this group not to score goals. It just we've been making excuses. The last one against Colorado was no Metanire. He is a big part of our offense. But in today's MLS, with all the tournaments, all the international play where players are gone, you have to be able to survive missing a piece or 2.
Colorado did it just fine. They were missing 3 big players, or 2 big players, and they survived just fine. Mm-hmm. They didn't even have Jack Price on the field, and they survived just fine. Yeah. And they got a 2-0 win against what many thought was a really good Minnesota team. So,
well, they've got to turn it around before it turns into a habit, and before things just get rolling downhill too steadily. So, and I think they will. There's just too much talent for them to continue to drop matches like the one they did against Colorado.
Absolutely. So next up, doesn't get any easier. Seattle Sounders coming to town. The Seattle Sounders that have only set a record, an MLS record, thanks to their 2-0 win, I think it was 2-0 win against Houston the other night. They've set now an MLS record for longest unbeaten run in league history to start a season. They are 8 wins, 0 losses, 5 draws in the season, first place in the West, first place in the league, only undefeated team in the league. Yeah, previously against Minnesota, it was a 4-0 win for Seattle, at Seattle, to open up the season. They will not have either of the roll-ons. Nico Ladero is still out. No Stefan Fry. So they're dealing with injury issues, but they're handling it just fine. Continuing to go undefeated. Continuing to be just one of the best teams in the league. So it doesn't get any easier for Minnesota.
They're one of those franchises that they go into every year confident that they can make it to the MLS Cup. Mm-hmm. And that kind of confidence goes a long ways. Yeah. It starts with, the veteran players, the young players, the coaching staff, the training staff, everybody. We're going to be good. And it's hard to beat that. And I don't think the Western Conference is as strong as it has been in some years. And so they've said, hey, you know what? Let's just take this thing. Let's just take over and go. So they're going to lose at some point. It's inevitable. I think it'll happen, during this stretch when they're missing some of their key pieces. But we'll get to that and write that down. So
there's a tease.
Yeah,
radio professional here with the teases. You can hear that game 1 p.m. kickoff, 12:30 p.m. pre-match. Myself, Cal Williams, Dan Terhaar, Score North on AM 1500, Score North mobile app, and live.scorenorth.com this Sunday. Can't wait to have you guys join us for that one. Dan, let's take a quick look across the league now as we have reached that point of the show. Actually, we'll stay at home here first. Patrick Weah, the young homegrown forward from Minnesota, is in Spain now to train with La Liga club Real Betis for 2 weeks. Good move for him. I mean, he's going to train over there, train with some top-class professionals. He already was here, but it's a really good move. They're a club known for developing young talent in La Liga, so it's probably... he's got talent. We saw it in the couple minutes that he played for Minnesota this season, but that last name probably goes a ways in European football. But it's a good move. It's a good move to show that he is a really good talent, and that's good for Minnesota because it shows that this club can develop talent.
Anything you can do to keep him growing and learning and progressing his skills. We've seen such a little glimpse of him that we don't really know. We just know that the potential is there. And man, I hope someday he's a regular fixture for this club before he gets too good and he's gone. So it'd be nice to have his services for a couple of years, but it seems like he's on a path to end up bigger and better things ahead of him than the MLS. So hopefully we get a little benefit from that beforehand.
Absolutely. Sticking with the club, it was announced today, actually. CEO Chris Wright and the club announced he'll be stepping down at the end of the year. The club said they'll announce his successor within the next month or so. We've worked with Chris Wright for a couple years now. Good guy. We'll be sad to see him go, but he's done some really good things with this club in the 4 years that he's been with the club.
I got to know Chris Wright a little bit when he was with the Timberwolves, and then of course, obviously. Working the last 4 years for me with the Loons, and I think he was a brilliant hire by this club. A guy who's from England, loves the game of soccer, and I think one of his quotes today was he felt like this was going home when he got hired by MNUFC to help bring this team. I think his role was huge, was bringing this team into the sports media circle of Minnesota. Not so much, the world stage, the American stage, the MLS. That's their responsibility. I think Chris's job was to make the Loons a fixture and a piece of the Minnesota sports landscape. And I think he did an amazing job, and he will be missed. And whoever they replace him with for next season will have some big shoes to fill. So I have all the respect in the world for Chris, and it'll be sad to see him move on. But he'll go on to something great, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Moving on to the rest of the league, and this one will step outside of MLS. U.S. men's national team last night get a decent 1-0 win over Haiti in the opening game of this year's Gold Cup for each of those sides. Of note, Gianluca Buzio got his first cap for the national team. He looked pretty good. It helps that he was playing at his home stadium in Kansas City, so he looked good. Shaq Moore out on the right side for the U.S. looked impressed last night, despite the win. Personally, I would like to see more from this squad. I know it's the B/C squad, but there was still a lot left there for the taking. The Gold Cup has never been an easy competition for any side, but if you're the U.S. and I know you're one of the better teams in CONCACAF, you probably should be winning a little bit more than 1-0 against a Haiti side that had a bunch of players missing and have had a bunch of turmoil around their camp and around their country over the last week or so.
But isn't that the way international soccer goes?
Yeah, absolutely.
If a team like Haiti says, "Hey, you know what? We're going to play defense. We're not going to get blown out of here. We're going to try and keep it close, and maybe we can, get a big win." Sometimes a 1-0 victory is all you can get out of it, and it's very unpredictable. Just like the Colorado match, where on paper we were looking at it going, "Oh, this is going to be a high scoring match." You're going to need 3 goals to win. Well, it turns out we did need 3 goals to win. We just didn't get them. So it's very unpredictable. And on the international stage, you just don't know, especially when you get to some of the, 2 and 3 players that are playing, and you just don't know. And so, Haiti did probably what they wanted to do, and they kept it close.
Absolutely. Mexico get a draw against Trinidad and Tobago, a game that they probably should have won.
I think that would be a bigger disappointment for them, yeah.
Yeah, that was... Considering they're bringing basically their A squad. Obviously, they had the scary injury earlier in the match. So, but yeah, I would think they would want more than just a draw against Trinidad Tobago. Going back to MLS now, from rumors online, it sounds like Canadian teams will be able to return home very soon, aka this weekend, maybe, if things are ironed out within the next 24 to 36 hours. It sounds like there will be announcements coming that the 3 Canadian teams will be able to play home games in Canada starting this weekend.
Good for them. I can't imagine what it's been like for them. None of us have been in a scenario like that. And I think that they will be thrilled to get back home. Everybody but maybe Toronto.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. I mean, they got off to a good start under interim management. They get a 3-2 win at New England, one of the best teams, if not the best team in the East. But
we'll talk about that and write this down too.
Oh, there's a tease. Well, that's about it for our look across the league. So why don't we get to it? Why don't we get to this week's bloody mess that is Write That Down. All right, let's bring it in here, Dan.
Wrote it down.
Write This Down, if you haven't listened before, is our weekly segment where we make 3 soccer-related predictions, at least 1 Minnesota United-related prediction. We'll keep track of correct predictions throughout the year. We'll call those correct predictions goals. Most goals at the end of the year wins the Golden Boot. So we'll start, because there was so much that came off the board this week, Dan. We'll start with the things that came off the board that were correct.
Okay, let's do that.
Which is just 2 from me.
Okay.
I said a couple weeks ago, Argentina will win Copa America, and thankfully they did. Lionel Messi finally gets that one off his back. He was outstanding in the tournament, named player of the tournament. He just dominated the tournament, dominated the game. It was an outstanding night for Argentina and Lionel Messi. Then I also said, what?
Don't tell Cal, but I mean, England never had a shot. I don't know how they even got it to shoot shots,
We haven't even gotten to the Euros yet, but wow. All right, we'll get to that in a second. Actually, right now, I said the winner of the Belgium/Italy match will win the Euros. I was correct. Italy did end up winning yesterday on penalties. Heartbreaking loss for England. They get the second-minute goal by Luke Shaw, aka the best left back in the world. No bias there from Manchester United fan here. All right, so let's get on to everything that went wrong this last week for the accountability session.
All right. Wow, that's a lot of red. Wow.
I'll take this down so we can see everything.
Let's just skip that.
Yeah.
Let's just move on.
So since we started with me getting 2 things right, I'll go to the 3 things that I got wrong, aka all of my predictions from last week I got wrong. I said Minnesota will beat Colorado. That didn't happen. I said England will beat Denmark in regulation. That didn't happen. England did beat Denmark, but it had to go to extra time. And then I said Italy will beat England with a clean sheet in regulation. That went out the window in the 2nd minute. So I got 3 more wrong. Dan.
Yeah,
one of these was left over from last week because I forgot to do the math on it.
Okay.
You said 2 weeks ago, Dallas, Vancouver, Colorado, Seattle, and LA Galaxy, Sporting Kansas City. Those 3 matches will have 12 goals or more scored in those games. There was 8 goals scored.
It was actually 8 was a pretty good run at it. So
that was it was pretty close.
And I went with my gut feeling. So
then all 3 of yours from last week were wrong as well. You said Minnesota will score 3 or more goals. There will be 3 or more yellow cards. I think that was right on. And then you said Tyler Miller will have 3 or more saves. I didn't look at his save total, but obviously Minnesota didn't score any, so that one was off the board.
Terrible. They were terrible. That was a terrible pick.
You said Hassani Dotson will have a goal or an assist against Colorado.
Well, they didn't score, so.
Nope. And then you said there will be 4 clean sheets and at least 1 5-goal performance by one of the teams in the MASL on Thursday. There was the 5-goal performance. I think it was
that.
Pirates FC
Yes.
over at Eden Prairie High School. They got a 5-goal performance in a win, but there was only 2 clean sheets on the weekend.
I was so close on that one.
And
I put so much work into that one and so much thought. It's disappointing, but you know what? That's the way you play the game, and I'll have to move on.
Do you have any more MASL picks coming up this week?
I don't this week, no.
Oh, okay.
I felt a little beat up from last week's disappointment, so I decided just to lay off for a week.
Fair enough. And then only to make Cal's week worse, we will include an incorrect prediction from him. He said Minnesota will be in the top 6 in the West after the Euros. Well, the Euros have ended, and because they couldn't even get a point on Wednesday night, Minnesota dropped down to 7th place, so just one short of where he said they would be. So, our records. I'm now up to 6 goals. You're still on 9 goals, and now the guests are stuck on 2 goals still. Still no goals for the listeners. Dan, I'm catching up to you here, and I still got a bunch that are just sitting out there ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm playing this game. I'm playing chess. You're playing checkers.
Not worried.
Not worried? You sure?
No, not worried.
All right. Shall we get to our predictions this week?
Yep, you go first this week.
You want me to go first? All right.
You go first.
Minnesota United playing Seattle this weekend. Seattle undefeated. Minnesota, well, coming off the back of 2 disappointing performances. I think that changes this weekend. Minnesota get a huge performance.
What?
They get a 2-goal or more win with a clean sheet.
What?
They will score 2 more goals and have a clean sheet against
milk?
Seattle.
What is in that chocolate milk jug you're drinking?
Go big or go home, son.
Oh, my God.
Go big or go home.
All right. I'm writing that down. Okay, so I went with a Minnesota versus Seattle theme as well.
Okay.
As you mentioned, Seattle's undefeated. So Minnesota hosts Seattle Sunday. Thursday, Seattle takes on Austin. And then next Sunday, they take on Sporting KC. That's Seattle's next 3. So here's what I'm doing. I'm stretching this out. Out of those 3, Seattle will get 1 or less wins.
Okay, so they have 1 or less wins in their next 3.
Right, they'll get 1 win or less than 1 win in their next 3. So I'm not saying Minnesota's going to beat them. I think they might. What I'm saying is, so this way I'm still alive. If Minnesota loses to Seattle, I can still get this one right if they lose or draw to Austin and Sporting Kansas City. So that's my prediction. Write that down.
Write that down.
That means in the next 3, they will definitely have their first loss. Okay. And I hope it's Sunday.
That would be nice. That would be definite uptick from the last 2 games. This one is outside of Minnesota United and MLS. I might come back to MLS here for the 3rd one. Manchester United, one of my favorite clubs. Talk about it often. They are in the market for a center back, and they are in the market for a new midfielder. And rumors are that Rafael Varane of Real Madrid and Eduardo Camavinga of Rennes in France are 2 of their targets. Write this down. By the time the transfer window closes this summer, Manchester United will have signed both of them, which would be big money moves for the club. It would be a huge summer for Manchester United, considering they've already locked up Jadon Sancho. I think Manchester United will lock up, write this down, Manchester United will lock up Rafael Varane and Eduardo Camavinga by the time the transfer window closes this summer.
Sounds like you have some inside information. I don't know.
I am hoping, as a fan, that they come to Manchester United. It would be nice.
Why don't you ever wear your Man U jersey?
They fit really tight because Adidas likes to make their jerseys really tight, and I'm a big kid.
Shrunk up in the wash, huh? Hate when that happens.
That's the excuse. Yep.
I hate that. All right, my number 2, MLS. Toronto got that 3-2 win over New England, right? Mm-hmm. Surprised everybody. It means they've turned it around and they're going to be good now. Nah, never mind. Toronto will lose their next 3. They play Orlando, the Red Bulls, and Chicago. So that's my prediction. Toronto, after that 3-2 win, that was just a fluke. Because actually, didn't they have a big lead in it? Were they up 3-0?
Yeah, they were up 3-0 and then almost... They were up 3-0 and then almost
peed down their leg. Away. Yeah. So, they're going to get back to their old ways. They'll lose their next 3. Write that down.
Okay. Coming back to Minnesota United for this one, and just put more chocolate milk in me, some spiked chocolate milk.
Oh, no.
Minnesota.
Here we go.
The next three. As we already know, Seattle's coming to town.
Yep.
Following that, it's basically a week off. Then Portland comes to town.
Okay.
And then you head out on Wednesday to LAFC. Those are three really good teams. Mm-hmm. Minnesota United will win at least two of them.
Okay.
And I've already said they're going to beat Seattle, so it's going to be Seattle. It's going to be Seattle and then one of the other two teams. So Minnesota will win at least two of the next three, if not all three.
So you think, and by the way, write that down.
Write that down.
You think that they're going to turn this thing around? That the Colorado was kind of a little blip on the radar, and that's going to be gone. And
Colorado was the wake up call.
Okay.
Colorado was the wake up call. They saw that and they realized, oh crap, this thing could get out of control real quickly.
Okay.
They're going to turn it around this last week and a half.
Okay. All right. I hope you're right.
Turn it around in a really big way.
I hope
Write
you're
that
right.
down.
So, all right. Gold Cup.
Gold Cup.
USA versus Martinique.
Okay.
Thursday at Children's Mercy Park. USA will again, after a 1-0 win against Haiti, will again get a clean sheet against Martinique.
Okay.
So back-to-back clean sheets for Team USA.
Write that down.
Write that down.
That has been Write That Down this week. Hopefully it goes much better than this week did for us. So we'll see. I mean, probably my picks will probably get blown out of the window because I like to swing big and it never works out. So whatever. But that was Write That Down this week. That was Loon Talk this week. Be sure to listen to the radio broadcast coming up Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff, 12:30 p.m. pre-match over on Score North on AM 1500, the Score North mobile app, and live.scorenorth.com if you want to listen on your computer. Those are the three ways you can listen into the radio broadcast every week. I am Jonathan Harrison. That has been Dan Terhaar. Dan, we will talk to you on Sunday.
Have a good week, Jonathan. See you,
you
everybody.
Too as well. Have a good week, listeners. Thank you for listening. Remember to give us a rating, a review, and a subscription. It really does help us get found. You can also watch us, if you want to, over on Score North's YouTube channel. Every week, we will post the videos of this. And there's your dog, Dan.
Must be an intruder.
Must be an intruder.
I better go.
I'll let you go and get that intruder. Have a good one, Dan. Have a good one, listeners.